That way, you know.
You're good.
That's exciting to hear everybody conversing and whatnot. If I haven't had a chance to say hi, hello, welcome. I'd like to start off with roll call.
All right. Ms. Friedman?
I'm here.
Yes, you are. Mr. Arnold?
Here.
Ms. Banks? Ms. Bell? Here. Mr. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Carter? Mr. Janai? Reverend Gordon?
Here.
Ms. Harding? Here. Ms. Mendoza-Locke? Here. Mr. Knowles?
Here.
Mr. O'Connor?
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Here.
Dr. Russell?
Here.
Mr. Stengel?
Here.
Major White? Here.
Thank you. Now we'd like to recognize our visitors, and we'll start with you, Richard.
My name is Lucy, and I'm CEO for Arrowhead and Rock. Jennifer Pierre, Lucas County Guardianship Services Board.
Paul Road Recovery Council and St. Paul Police Board of Trustees.
Robert Kasperzak, board staff.
Hi everyone, Carol Conlon, Lucas County Guardianship Services Board.
Juanita Helvig Sanchez, new employee of Mental Health Board.
Well, welcome.
Faith Gallagher, board staff.
Thank you.
So let's do Juanita a little more justice, shall we?
Yeah, I think that, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to interrupt the whole thing to do that, because I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Juanita's first day was yesterday.
Wow.
And she comes to us as our new manager of crisis and treatment services. 30-plus years of experience in the field, most recently working at Flower Hospital Psychiatric Unit. Licensed social worker, experience working in community mental health as well as housing. So we are very, very glad she chose to join us. So let's welcome her.
Welcome.
Yes.
And don't let us intimidate you. Did you hear me? I said, don't let us intimidate you.
Okay, we need to determine if any of the items need to be removed from the consent agenda from the August 16th meeting. Meeting minutes. The August 16th board meeting consent agenda included fiscal year Ohio Moss Indigent Replacement Allocation, fiscal year 23 Ohio Moss Multi-System Adult Allocation, fiscal year 22 New Concepts POS increase, health officer designation, table of organization and salary range revision, increase in fiscal year 2023 administrative budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Ms. Banks? Ms. Bell? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Reverend Gordon?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza Locke?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Dr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Stengel?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Thank you, Susan. Now to determine if there's anything that needs to be removed from the consent agenda for today's meeting, from the Planning and Oversight Committee report. We have the Treasurer's report, Latino ex-bilingual navigator community school and school community and school-based prevention IRP approval. We need to look at our August 16th meeting minutes, as well as Northwest Ohio Hospital Council assessment allocation, fiscal year Ohio Must Cross Crisis Infrastructure Funds allocation, fiscal year 23 Ohio Must Addiction Treatment Program allocation, and health officer designation. Do we have,
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ready? Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Reverend Gordon?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza Locke?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Dr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Stengel?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Thank you, Susan. And it's over to you, Scott.
Yeah, I guess it is. I'm feeling the pressure. So thank you for indulging us in the first part of today's agenda. I do apologize for the process error. We should have caught it at the beginning. And just, if you didn't catch what happened, is when we approved the consent agenda last time, we went right into the vote. We didn't have a first or a second. So that process error invalidated the whole vote. And so on recommendation of the prosecutor's office, we just redid the whole thing. So appreciate your patience, and I do apologize for that. So we're really glad that you reapproved the table of organization and salary changes. Because we were a little concerned about that. But
We thought about it.
yeah, I was a little concerned, but we do appreciate that, and I bring that up partly in jest because I wanted to update you on where we're at. You've met our first hire, and it certainly will not be our last. Currently, right now, we are advertising for the executive assistant, grants manager, accounting specialist, senior manager of programs and services, technology systems analyst, manager of training and development, and manager of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging positions. They will be in the Journal, the Truth, and La Prensa this week or next week, and then whatever that 2-week period is, so the following week. Half of them are already on Indeed, and the others will be on Indeed by the end of the week. Faith will be putting them on all of our social media accounts. We can send you that post so that you can share it amongst yourselves. And we are asking everybody to do one of two things. If they are going to apply for the job through Indeed, they just simply send a resume. If they apply through the county website, oh, by the way, it's on the county website too. They do the application process. And then we just work to have the application completed for those who go through Indeed. But we are working very closely with county personnel to make sure that all of the positions are properly screened and vetted and then interviewed. And we will pick off the positions one by one as we get qualified candidates. With our budget that we presented, we hope to have all of the positions filled by January 1st.
Awesome.
So it'll be quite an undertaking.
Who's minding the store?
Paul. Paul. Paul, right, Paul? We're all used to doing a lot of work, you know, when you start doing interviews for new hires, it's a very rewarding process because you can actually see the fruits of your labor right there in the middle, right? You see, I'm working this hard so that I can bring somebody on board so I don't have to work this hard anymore. So there's a lot to that, and I know Amy is very relieved to have Juanita on staff as she's been pulling double and triple duty sometimes.
Thank you, Amy.
So we, you know, we do what we do, and the staff work hard, and everybody's contributing. So it's great to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you to all the staff that's here. We
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Okay, so I am going to try and say this in a way that doesn't confuse everybody here, including me.
I'm scared.
So, you've heard us talk about SOAR funding, State Opioid Response Funding. You heard us talk about SOAR SOAR 1, SOAR 2, Year 1, SOAR 2, Year 2, SOAR 2, Year 1 carryover, SOAR 2, Year 1 no cost extension, SOAR 2, Year 2 carryover, and SOAR 2, Year 2 no cost extension. There's also now going to be a SOAR Year 3. While SOAR 2, Year 2 carryover is going on, and SOAR 2, Year 1 no cost extension is going on, all in the same time frame.
Okay.
The problem that we are anticipating is that SOAR 2 Year 1 carryover and SOAR 2 Year 2 funding end at the end of September this year. We were just notified on September 15th what the plan is for the no-cost extension period. And the extension period basically will allow us to use our underspending to continue the projects for another month.
To October 31st.
Right. We just learned a few hours ago, the wild card in all of this was we didn't know what SOAR 3.0 looked like. We are anticipating that SOAR 3 will be a 30% reduction of what we received last year.
Oh.
So the combination of the no-cost extension and Year 3 funding will not fund all the programs that we currently fund for the entire period, which would be September 30th, 2022 through September 29th, 2023. So we are going to have to level set our programs. That's just it. All the boards are taking a 30% reduction. We also, I'm bringing this up because it's likely the first time the agencies that are SOAR funded are getting this information because it's so rapidly changing. I know Jenny had some communication with fiscal folks about, hey, this is what's going on, but we're literally learning this as it's unfolding. Here we sit, today's September 20th. We're gonna need to respond to the Ohio Moss by, as soon as possible about what we want for the no-cost extension. And then fund the agencies that get that money, all the while knowing that we do not reconvene until October 4th with a board meeting on 18th, I think it is, October 18th. So why I bring all this up is there's a lot of different moving pieces, but the reality is if we want those programs to continue at least for the next month, we are just gonna have to come back to you on October 4th with a motion retroactive for some work that the board has already, the staff have already done as far as allocation. It is highly unusual that we would ever do that, but the timing and the circumstances are that if I wait to have you guys allocate it, then we won't have the agencies won't have the money in place to continue their programs until mid-October. Now you can retroactive it, but that doesn't make sense for it's gonna be about 500,000 in it, and we're trying to figure out exactly how much goes to each agency right now. But our plan would be to come back to you and say, here's what we did, here's what we had, here's what we did, here's what we're recommending for a motion. And I'm bringing this up because there's still time to stop that process if that makes you feel uncomfortable, or if you would prefer to have that motion in front of you sooner rather than later, because I can't even give you those figures right now because we don't officially have them.
So that will come to us on the 18th
For a final official,
to vote retroactively.
Yes.
Got it.
Right. Understanding that I'm gonna need some flexibility, and the motion will probably be a little something like, allocate these amounts to these agencies, or, at the discretion of the director or something like that, and amend contract. Because we won't have the total figures, because we won't know the amount of the true underspending, which means we won't know the amount of the true allocation until those two things are reconciled. And if we wait till that, then the month will be gone and the programs will close.
But we do have a specified end date.
Always, yes, yeah. And we are advocating strongly to receive SOAR funding on top of what is currently being talked about. The good news is there will likely be a SOAR 2.0, SOAR 2, year 2, no cost extension.
Oh, okay.
But we won't know that amount until January or so when they reconcile all those books. And then we're up to their being Ohio Moss's discretion on how they would like to award those funds. So, there is some reason for optimism on the back end, but I think prudently, we shouldn't plan for those dollars because they may or may not occur, and that we are going to have to reduce our current SOAR funding in the October 1st, 2022 through September 29th, 2023, accounting for the 1 year or 1 month no cost extension by about 22% or so, which is substantial when you get $4.3 million. Assuming that they use the $4.3 million amount and not the $4.2 million amount, not the 3.3, because we are awarded that extra $900,000 for the minority treatment grant in the SOAR 2.2 year 1 carryover. I know way too much about SOAR right now, and it actually makes my head hurt. Because as much anxiety as it causes us trying to track all this, I can only imagine what it does to the providers who are trying to do the service and trying to get paid for doing the service. So that is not lost on us. But a lot of this is beyond our control. And I guess to a certain extent beyond Ohio Moss control, because they are also beholden to SAMHSA to make a timely decision, and that does not always occur as well. So I'm going to stop there and ask have an opportunity to ask any questions you might have. I'm just kind of giving that as like a heads up. This is the
Do
thing
you
we're dealing
see
with
it
right now.
exceeding the 500,000?
It can't, because that's all the money we'll have available.
Okay.
And so we think we have enough to fund all the programs mostly at the current rate of spending for one more month.
And what you're asking for is the blessing? Because
I'm
it's not
asking-
an actionable item.
It's not actionable, yes. I'm not putting a motion in front of you. I'm giving you fair warning that we might have to do something creative and come back to you retroactively so that we can keep these, 8, 9, 10 programs rolling. And I just wanted you to know that it's beyond our control. I don't like bringing retroactive motions to you all, but in this case, at least I have the opportunity to give you a heads up that it's coming, as opposed to not even doing that. So that's where we're at on that.
Any
Are you
questions?
looking at maybe 30% on everybody, a cut, or are you looking at maybe if people have been using their funding, if they're underspent?
So we're focusing on how we want to utilize SOAR 3.0. And so this is, literally an hour and a half ago we learned this. So I haven't even, matter of fact, several of my staff just learned it, as I told you guys.
Oh, that's always fun.
Jenny knew. So we need to just caucus internally.
Okay.
And then we also need to understand the paperwork that comes
Right.
down, because they might reprioritize. I think you heard Phil Stone in his presentation last month in the performance indicate that opioid-related overdose deaths are down 20% in our community. Now is no time to kind of take our foot off the accelerator. So my sense is that we will prioritize SOAR 3.0 funding for those programs that have a direct impact on reducing death. And while we can make an argument that everything we do does that, there are some that are more directly related to that than others. And then also look at who has Medicaid reimbursement potential, who doesn't, that kind of stuff. And then align them with some of our already stated priorities. So there's a little work to be doing. In the end, we might end up just saying, okay, we want a new application process. We haven't gone there yet. So because there might be things now that we might want to do that wasn't available, or we were never thinking about the first 2 years ago. So, okay.
It was such a big
Thank
issue
you.
2 years ago
Yeah.
that I don't think we could have been too creative.
Yeah, and let's remember, we got, for several years, $3.3 million, and last year 4.3. We were one of the highest counties in the state. So I look at it as a blessing, and we were able to do some good things, but we all know that, these dollars were not a permanent and sustainable. So hopefully we can keep the programs that are doing well and spending their money and making a difference, and those that are still doing well and but not as well as the others, we might have to let go. So,
Scott, you used the figure 22%. I'm trying to understand. Does that indicate that the underspending was about 8%,
Yeah.
so that the net
Yeah.
reduction is really 22%?
Yeah, that first month. That's just SILAC math. as Jenny accuses me of using all the time.
It made sense to me.
There we go. See? So I want to just bring that out. I do have two other things. Want to remind those of you who have not completed their ethics training yet, and that's about half of you, please do so by the end of the month and send me the certificate. If you need a new link, let me know, and I will send you that link. The final item I have is really a default to Mr. Carter, our Director of Community Engagement and Equity, and I'd like him to give you an update on some of the cool things that we've been doing in the community lately.
Thanks, Scott. First, want to thank everybody who participated or gave us any kind of help towards Recovery is Beautiful. It was an incredible event. I think it went over really, really well. We had it last Saturday. If you didn't know, Faith and Rob did an excellent job helping to plan it, and not only plan it, but execute it as they picked up many of the pieces in August. And so we were able to have a really, really great event. A lot of our providers participated, including Arrowhead as well, participated and helped with dessert, and so it turned out well. They also had volunteers. We touched at least 200 families. We don't have a final count, but we know how many tickets we had to get ices, which was a complete hit. It stole the show, all right? Shaved Ice stole the show this year. We had art exhibits. We had they had opportunity to make yarn sticks. I don't know what they were called. It was the coolest thing you could have seen, though. To watch little kids actually do it was impressive. It was hot. The blacktop made it even hotter. So we were lucky to have the inside of the Warner Center. But this year, we were able to see something I think that Scott and I've talked about now a couple of times, and that was families. We were able to see families from within our system, staff from within the system come and enjoy with their families. Even one of the officers who was working the event called his family, his wife and son, to come out and participate once they saw what we were doing. So there was a large number of children there. Faith had fun with bubbles. Look for the video, it's coming. She has a hat on with bubbles. It's just the funniest thing. I think she had more fun than the kids.
All right, Faith.
Credio did an incredible video for us that we're gonna post, so you'll get an opportunity to see what you missed if you weren't there. This Thursday, we're gonna be doing mental health first aid at Promedica's Marketplace. And I bring that up because many of you have heard about the training we have done with the barbers. And this particular training Thursday is a result of the barbers coming back and sharing with Promedica and their contacts there who sponsor their programs just how great of an encounter they've had. And because of that, their administration and managers wanted to go through the training. They requested Alex and I to come because we did the 2 barber trainings to come back so they could have that same experience. And I just think it was really cool to share that with you guys because you get to hear about what we're doing with these other entities, but I want you to see the ripple effect of what we do and how it affects others and how we're able to really just touch our community in a very positive way, and especially with some of the things we're seeing in schools, with so much happening even today within schools. When you see the news, you'll understand and you'll say, hey, I think it's just a great opportunity for us to make those partnerships. Then finally, if you haven't seen our commercial, it's been on channel 13, but you'll also should be seeing it on channel 11. I know CW, I don't know if it's 24 or not. 24, yep, I had to look at Faith because she put that together for us. So if our naloxone commercial that talks about opiates in our community as a young guy on a basketball court playing basketball, and it really just addresses Narcan. And so that's something else you will see from us out in the community. So we just want you to know that we're doing a really positive thing in trying to touch our community. We're really trying to go above and beyond in our engagement, and I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of what we were doing.
Great job.
Very good.
So glad
So we had really good coverage related to the press conference with the Boy Scouts and their collaboration with the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation and Lucas County Suicide Prevention Foundation and the Erie Shores chapter of the Boy Scouts.
Erie Shore Council.
Erie Shore Council.
Of Boy Scouts of America.
Of the Boy Scouts. Is it SOAR 1 or SOAR 2?
It took me forever.
Yeah, but I mean, we were at the Blade front,
Yes.
top half,
Yeah,
Channel
that's
11,
amazing.
Channel 13. Channel 24 had extensive coverage. It was very positive, it was really positively received, and I thought it was just a good opportunity. Kudos to the Lucas County Coalition for doing all the hard work around that. You know, once again, how cool is it? We got to design our own Boy Scout badge.
And it's been positively
Yeah.
received on the other end. I
Right.
mean, everybody's so excited about it, so.
So it, you know, we've had some good press lately. We continue to work hard, and I have nothing else to add.
Okay. Before we go into open session again, I just want to really reiterate, to make sure you get your ethics training and get that certificate to Scott. And let's move into open session. Mr. Ron?
Just a brief update of what's going on at One Government Center this morning. The county commissioners, and I'm reading it, permission to enter into early start agreement with CBRE for owner's representation guide during project definition phase of the comprehensive building renovations of 701 Adams. I guess they're going to spend a lot of money just planning what they're going to do to this building. CBRE will get $72,000. The collaborative will get $274,000, and Lathrop will get $95,000, and they assure me this building will remain open during the renovations. It's going to be quite something. Let's see, City Council, I just came from an agenda review committee. They're going to have two controversial hearings this Thursday. The first one is at 10 a.m. This is Michelle Grimm's attempt to spend ARPA funding for medical debt relief. A couple of the council members went on record today saying we're not going to support this. But at 10 o'clock this Thursday, she'll receive public testimony. She claims it is something that we should be doing with the federal dollars that we are receiving. Then at 3 o'clock this Thursday, an even more controversial meeting, this will be the group living text amendments that City Council has been working on since, I believe, February of 2019. What they will have in front of them are the recommendations of the Plan Commission as well as the recommendations of the Fair Housing Center. They can make any amendments they want, but my understanding is this Thursday, they will hear public testimony, and then it goes directly to the City Council. Most legislation will go through agenda review first, but this won't. So they can make amendments if they want, but they won't vote on anything this Thursday. They will just take public testimony, and then on the 27th, at their regularly scheduled meeting, they will vote, hopefully, for these text amendments, which will make it much, much easier to create they're not going to call them residential facilities anymore. They're going to call them group homes, and it will get rid of spacing requirements and make it much easier to move these into the neighborhoods, even if they do face some kind of opposition. I'm told there will be some neighborhood groups there on Thursday. We'll see what happens. My understanding is that the new 988 crisis suicide line, brief history, Trump rolled this out, and he wanted to come up with it in 2020. He was going to use it in his re-election campaign. He was going to spend $570 million the first year for this line, which replaces the old National Suicide Prevention Hotline. The pandemic derailed everything. The Biden administration rolled it out in July, but they're only spending half was originally proposed, and I guess the states are going to be asked to pick up the rest, and it will run out of money June the 30th of next year, and my understanding is the state of Ohio has no plan currently to fund this, but some lobbying will be necessary because we do need this. This is the line that you would call for a mental health emergency or for a drug and alcohol, whatever, and it's very important that we get this funded. So, indulge me just for a minute as I tell you one of my favorite stories. It was 64 years ago today, September the 20th of 1958, that Dr. Martin Luther King was signing books in a store in Harlem. A woman named Izola Ware Curry walked up to him and said, "Are you Dr. King?" He said, "Yes," and she stabbed him. He came as close to dying as a person can. The blade penetrated the outer layer of the aorta, stopping short of the inner layer. His doctors told him if you had sneezed on the way to the emergency room, you would have died. It would have ripped open the aorta. You would have bled to death. Nothing could have stopped it. While he was being treated at the hospital for this injury, he was asking how the woman who stabbed him was. He was concerned about her. She had a lifelong history of mental illness. He never pressed any charges against her. He prayed for her to get well. She did not. She spent the rest of her life in a psychiatric hospital. Remember, this is the 1950s, and in the 50s, if you went into a psychiatric hospital, you didn't come out. That's the reason this board and others like it were created, so that if people get the help they need, they don't go out and stab people, and they don't spend the rest of their lives in psychiatric hospitals. And it's scary to think how world history would have been changed if he had died in 1958. So in today's society where nobody wants to forgive anything for anybody anymore, I think it's even more important to remember Dr. King forgave a woman that almost killed him. He prayed for her recovery and never pressed any charges. That was 64 years ago today. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Richard.
Anybody else for open session?
One other thing. I just want to let everybody know that there is going to be I'm sorry.
Hello. Many of you know that September is National Gambling Prevention Week, and Zeph will be hosting a free webinar on Wednesday, the 28th. It's about gambling, gaming, and gambling. I don't even know what that is. But I think everybody should come and pay attention to it because gambling is an issue, and we fund a really good prevention program here in Lucas County. So it's Wednesday, the 28th. The information will be on our website, and it's hosted by Zeph. Thank you.
And sports gambling begins in January.
Yes.
So it's important.
That was good stuff. I've been coming here and being quiet for most of the meetings, so I just wanted to let you know, since Scott, you had mentioned about good and positive press coming up, I came here from an interview with Eric Chase and his radio show, and he taped a segment for his podcast, and it's going to be playing this weekend on their affiliate channels throughout the weekend, different times. And if I didn't say the name of your board and all of you once, I said it about 50 times today. They kept tying it back in to your board specifically, and I was also, cognizant of our other funders and mentioning the board of DD and what they're doing, but it really did. It kept coming back to all of you, and I think it was a really good, positive podcast segment. So just wanted you to know it's out there, and it lets people know that you're a big part of why Guardianship Services Board exists here in Lucas County now and what we've been doing. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.